What's happening, Geeky Geeksters? Peter here with Nick Ramirez on the Geekiverse.com. We're talking about what a great week it was in TV. This is the end of the winter hiatus for lots of shows, and lots happened just this week alone, and there's some things that are about to happen. We want to talk about those. So where do you want to start, Nick?
Let's start with The Flash.
Flash.
All right, Wally West's introduction. I'm really confused about what they're doing with this guy. Because he shows up out of nowhere to meet his dad, and then, no, I want nothing to do with you. You couldn't find me all those years. You're a great detective, but you couldn't find me. It was just really seemed like they weren't sure what they're doing with him.
Yeah, and it seems like it's just, and I'm a little worried about this, it's turning into like a Flash all-star game, because you have, last season the big bad was the Reverse Flash,
right,
and Flash, and now Jay Garrick from Earth 1 was one of the original
Golden
Flashes.
Age Flash.
Wally West is
he was the latest Flash,
Kid Flash,
after
right?
Barry Allen.
And Zoom, and now it looks like the Reverse Flash is returning. So
yeah.
It's like we have almost every incarnation of the Flash there is.
Well, plus you've got, his name escapes me at the moment, but the scientist from Earth 2 that's been helping them, that's, looks like the guy from last season, his daughter's actually Speedster in the comics too. So we're pretty much incorporating every single speedster they possibly can.
The guy, Harrison Wells.
There we go, thank you.
Right, Harrison Wells.
His daughter, she's a speedster in the comics too. She uses a formula to gain her speed abilities. And now that she's been introduced, I mean, it seems like they're just trying to cram this full of speedsters.
Full of Flash.
Yeah.
So, they're cool characters. I think Tom Cavanaugh, who plays Harrison Wells, I love that Harrison Wells from last season is a completely different person than Harrison Wells from this season. A testament to him as an actor. He was the right choice for the part.
I mean, he doesn't. You don't see him and think of the character from last season at all. He's a completely different character, just in everything. His body language, his mannerisms, his speech patterns, everything is so different. You could put them next to each other and you'd probably be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, and a lot of the teasing that's been going on for the rest of the season. There's going to be Robbie Amell, Stephen Amell's cousin, who played the original Firestorm,
right.
Is making an appearance again.
Is Dark Storm, yeah.
Right, from Earth 2.
Earth 2.
And then it looks like we're going to see Killer Frost, which is Caitlin Snow's alter ego in the comics.
Right.
What do you think of the mood so far?
Flash is doing a really good job of keeping consistent with its tone, and that's what I love about the show, because it embraces some of the more ridiculous elements of the mythos. Gorilla Grodd, it's a very goofy overall character.
Right.
And they embrace that while also not making fun of it too much. They really treat these as serious threats, which they are. At the same time, they embrace that kind of element of just fun, Silver Age throwback.
Right.
So.
It's very comic booky to me.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I enjoy about it, is it's very comic booky, much lighter than, say, the next show we'll talk about, The Arrow. This first episode just aired on Wednesday night. At the end of the first part of the season, Damien Dark sends some guys to take care of Oliver and Felicity.
Yep.
And they shoot up the car that they're driving in, and it's at the end you see Oliver cradling Felicity, and then we pick up there. What did you think of what happened then?
Overall, I'm not a big fan of this whole tease up to the who's in the grave thing. And I think that they were really trying to tease us that it might be Felicity who dies, when first off, we all know she's not going to die. She's too important to the show for them to kill her off. Second off, I don't think they really planned out who's in the grave properly, so right now it just feels like they're trying to force a mystery around it and slowly eliminate the suspects.
The very first tease I saw of that, Barry Allen, the Flash, shows up next to Oliver when Oliver's standing there and says something to the effect of, he was a good man. So I think we know that it's a man in there.
Well, he didn't say anything specific. Like, they deliberately kept it vague, and here's why. The writers actually said in an interview they don't know who's in the grave yet. They didn't plan it out.
Oh, I missed that.
Which is, in my opinion, it's poor writing, because how does, the actor who's playing Arrow know how to react at the grave, if they don't know who's in it already? And then, I'm going to be honest, my bet is it's, God, God, why am I blanking on the kid's name? His sidekick, his original sidekick.
Roy Harper.
Thank you.
The original Red Arrow.
I'm losing it today. I'm betting it's Roy because they announced that he's going to be back right around the time that we'd see someone go into the grave. We know they're not going to kill off Felicity now for sure. It's very unlikely they'll kill off Diggle. It's going to be Roy because he's a character that's going to have an impact on the audience, but they don't lose anyone from the main cast.
I have another theory on that. I think that it's Captain Lance.
You know, I thought that.
Because he's gone to the dark side here. Excuse the pun, as he's hanging out with Damien Dark, providing him information at the beginning of things. So I don't know how they redeem him after that.
Well, he's been working towards redemption, and that really does set up a great redemption equals death arc.
Yeah.
Like, he redeems himself and loses his life in the process, makes the ultimate sacrifice. So that's a very good point.
And whoever's in there, obviously, Oliver is...
Oh, he's
pissed.
He's going on the warpath.
Right, he's like, I need to kill him. That's
Yeah.
the thing. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. Quite honestly, of the DC stuff that's on the air right now, I think Arrow's my favorite. It would be a toss-up, quite honestly. You'll laugh at me when I say this, but it would absolutely, in my mind, be a toss-up between the Arrow and Supergirl. I'm loving Supergirl. We'll talk about that one another day because
It's still on hiatus.
Well, it came back a few weeks ago, actually. It came back almost right after Christmas. So it started much later.
Yeah.
And it came back earlier than that. So, but I'm loving that show. Here's another one that premiered this week. What did you think? Tell me, DC Legends of Tomorrow.
You know what? That is my favorite of the DC TV series right now, including Gotham, Supergirl, everything. Legends of Tomorrow, I was really impressed with the first episode. It's a pilot, so I mean, it has a few things that felt a little shaky, but, you know, it's got a really, really great cast with it. Very different characters. I love the whole Captain Cold and Heatwave are just looking to be the ultimate criminals through time. Hawkgirl and Hawkman fighting over whether or not they're going to go, literally fighting each other to decide this. I thought that was a really cute, part of their relationship, especially when you see her just kind of pouting.
Captain Cold, absolutely. The actor that plays Captain Cold, he might be my favorite character in this whole DC TV universe. He's fantastic. The way that he talks,
just
every time.
Snide.
He's absolutely got a comic book character persona about him. You know, and he's so much fun to watch. The actor is so good at it. Sometimes he does good things, sometimes he does bad things. Sometimes he, at one point in time, spares the Flash. After he lets all the bad guys go, and the Flash is like, "What'd you do that for?" He goes, "Well, they owe me one." And then he says, "Well, why didn't you kill me?" And he says, "Well, you owe me one too." Like, he's constantly building his deck of cards to be able to play. And I think the world of him.
Oh yeah, and I mean, he just captures Captain Cold's kind of, you can't get a read on him. It's common in the comics too, and it's one of my favorite aspects of the comics is that Captain Cold has very strict rules for the villains he works with. They don't kill women and children. They don't kill a speedster because he has a real respect for the Flash.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want to admit it. He likes being Flash's arch nemesis and talking like this. And it's just so fun to watch.
Yeah, no, I definitely think of all the characters we've seen in the DC TV universe so far, he might be my favorite.
I can definitely agree with that. And I'm digging Rip Hunter. I like this whole time travel aspect to it. I like the futuristic gunslinger. Like, he's pretty much a cowboy from the future.
Yeah.
I loved that.
It was I'm in for the next couple episodes. I want to see how it is. I'm worried in the long run that it's not sustainable. The cast is huge, and with huge casts comes huge payrolls, which means that they absolutely need to do some things to maintain that. And I'm not convinced that you can sustain a show with that many stars in it. Just from an economic standpoint, there's some of my favorite shows on TV died that death because the casts were too big, and they just weren't selling the ad space that they needed to make that affordable. But the CW is doing some great things, so here's hoping that they're able to sustain it. Also, premiered this week, Marvel's Agent Carter fills in that huge gap where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is on hiatus. What'd you think of that episode?
I really love this. I love Agent Carter overall. I think it's a really good spy piece, and I like this whole planning her to the West Coast or East Coast for this. East Coast or West Coast? I can't remember.
She moved to the West Coast.
West Coast, thank you. I knew it was one or the other. I think it's offering an interesting view in her character. I especially like that last season we dealt a lot with, issues of feminism in the time. Women were, receptionists, secretaries. No one saw her as an equal. This season we're touching a little bit on racial disparity as well, while also still keeping the feminist aspects. And the thing is, it's not so overt that's clubbing you over the head every 5 seconds with, the African American and the white woman are disrespected in this time. But the moments where it is really overt, they make sense because of the time.
Right.
And I think that that's a really great viewpoint. I'm also really excited about this whole introduce of the Dark Force. That's supposed to tie into Doctor Strange at some point.
Yeah.
I love Madame Mask, the main villain hopefully main villain for this season. She's one of my favorite comic book villains. Started with her showing up in Hawkeye and becoming Hawkeye 2's arch nemesis. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with her.
For my money, this is a winner because it's short story arcs. Last season I think was 8 episodes. I think they're doing something similar to that this year. And the second thing is Haley Atwell is just
fantastic.
She's fantastic. She's in the first episode. If you haven't seen the first episode of it yet, not really a spoiler here, but she drops her natural English accent when she's talking to the guy at the racetrack,
right?
And just effortlessly drops that. She's just such a good actress and enjoyable to watch all the way around.
Jarvis with Vernon Stark, it has the lighthearted moments. I really think that that's good to have in there. With Jarvis.
Super great chemistry between the two.
Oh, absolutely.
Super great chemistry.
Not necessarily romantic chemistry. I'm a big fan of platonic mixed gender relationships in all forms of media.
Yeah.
I don't think that bond you have with the opposite gender, if they're not romantic, it really gets enough notice in media. And to see Jarvis and Peggy just completely best friends, his wife doesn't even question it, and they were wrestling around at one point. Any other show, that would have been the wife walking in like, what's going on here? Instead she walks out, she's like, oh, hey, he pinned you, didn't he?
Yeah.
I love that. I especially love Jarvis's wife.
Yeah.
With the,
she's a good character.
She is.
She's a good character to have to sneak in there every once in a while just for some, some extra added layers of that, So I'm less a fan of Marvel TV than I am of DC TV, quite honestly. But I'm enjoying this one. So also this week in TV, Heroes Reborn, the NBC. It's a continuation, not a reboot. That's been a theme of mine this week. Is the idea between picking up a series where you left off, even if it's 10 years in the future, or rebooting it. So Heroes Reborn, very definitely not a reboot, but a continuation.
Yep.
The show was canceled this week as well. So we have seen the end of Heroes, I imagine. When we talked before the camera was on, you watched it a little bit on the front side. Didn't spark your interest? Why did you let that one go?
Well, it did spark my interest, but there's so much on TV to watch right now and so much to keep up with Hulu. I usually watch everything on there. So I kind of had to make the choice. And
that's why Hulu should sponsor this show.
Absolutely. I decided that was when I just wait for it to completely hit Netflix. Also, I watched Heroes once it hit Netflix and binged it, and I felt like that made me able to appreciate and follow the storyline a lot more because it's loads and loads of characters, huge mythology that they build in, and I could see that getting very frustrating week to week because you forget details week to week. So I figured, probably best to just wait for it to hit Netflix or Hulu in its entirety, and then I'll binge watch it because I'll probably enjoy it a lot more.
Without dropping too many spoilers on it, one of the things that I didn't like so much about this is there was multiple groups of people doing their thing. And like you said, very hard to keep track of and figure out who's who and what they're doing, how they're coming together and everything. I was a big fan of Heroes in its first season, and then it got a little bit goofy. This one started a little bit goofy, and I was not surprised one little bit when NBC pulled the plug on it. Last thing we want to talk about in this episode here is X-Files, also a continuation, not a reboot. X-Files originally did 9 seasons and on Fox, and now they're coming back. They did 2 movies after that, and apparently Chris Carter has written a 3rd movie that's sitting in a drawer hidden someplace. So we'll see. Maybe it gets its chance if this 6-episode sort of mini-series gets its legs. X-Files premieres this Sunday. What do you think about an X-Files continuation?
I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this. The show did kind of lose steam towards the later seasons because they started losing a lot of the main cast, and creative teams switched, and it also got very convoluted.
Yes.
This was one of the first shows that really tried to do that, intricate mythology.
Yeah.
And so they had to work out the kinks. I think they did a pretty good job with it, but towards the end, it started to lose a lot of its, steam, and just a lot of people started tuning out. So I think a shorter series for a follow-up is a great way to go. I'm a little curious how they're going to address certain points from the movies and such. The alien invasion was supposed to happen in, 2012 in the original series? Mm-hmm. We're well past 2012, no alien invasion, maybe Josiah, but... I'd like to see how they address certain points like that. I hope they don't just give us a throwaway line like, we stopped it, we're good.
That would make me mad.
That would make me mad.
That would turn me off on the whole season.
Almost as much as the Chris Carter stating that Scully and Mulder never had more than a platonic friendship. I really feel like that's a poor way to go with those characters.
Yeah, and I missed that. I missed that announcement someplace in my looking through things. But the Grumpy Geek, I addressed that on the Grumpy Geek. It was kind of like one of the things about the new Star Wars that kind of was like, was when Han and Leia weren't actually together. And it made sense once we started to watch through it, but the same thing here. They were pushing towards those two being together throughout the whole thing. It was the sexual tension that drove that relationship, quite honestly, through the whole thing. So now when they're back and they're like, we're not together, it's kind of like not something that not something I expected, not something I think it might be good for the whole thing. So.
Overall, we could probably do a whole episode discussing the Han and Leia thing, because I had a completely different read on that.
Well, we are known to do some Star Wars content on this.
Really?
I don't know whether we can do it without Josiah. We should probably try to see if Star Wars can live without our chief geek. And see whether we can do that. So anyway, great week in TV. Hope that you caught some of it. We'd love to hear your comments on The Flash, The Arrow, the new Legends of Tomorrow, Agent Carter, Heroes Reborn's cancellation, or the X-Files. I imagine that Nick and I will probably be sitting here again in a week or so talking about what we think about the X-Files episode. So I'm Pete Herr. You can find me on any social media at Pete Herr. Nick, where can I find you?
You know what? Pretty much just the Geekiverse.
Just the Geekiverse?
I'm exclusive to the Geekiverse.
That was a tough contract for us to swallow, but we wanted the best of the best, and we wanted exclusivity. So you can follow us on the Geekiverse. Come to our website, thegeekiverse.com, Facebook, at Facebook.com/The Geekiverse, and Instagram and Twitter at @the_Geekiverse.com. We'll see you next time. I'm Pete Herr for The Geekiverse. See ya.